I owe my mom a thank you for getting arrested during my job interview. My mom once pushed a kid off a swing right there on the playground just because he cut in line and took my spot. She later grabbed his arm while he sobbed, forcing him to apologize in front of everyone. I just stood there, watching, thinking it was normal. But that wasn't love. It was a warning. A warning I should have taken seriously, because her love was actually a weapon, and it almost destroyed me. My mom had always been involved, but as I got older, I quickly realized her involvement was a little more extreme. That playground incident was just the beginning. In middle school, I brought home a B on a science project she'd helped me with. She was absolutely furious. Not for me, but for her perceived failure. She called my teacher and argued for 40 excruciating minutes until the teacher, utterly exhausted, changed my grade to an A just to get her off the phone. The humiliation burned. High school? Even worse. I poured my soul into a college application essay, one my English teacher called perfect. My mom completely rewrote it, turning my voice into hers. I ended up waitlisted. It felt like she was erasing me, one achievement at a time. And it wasn't just school. When I finally developed a crush on a boy, my mom, in her infinite wisdom, found his parents on social media. She messaged them, demanding they set us up on a date. They were instantly creeped out, of course, and tried to politely decline. But that was a mistake. You see, no is the word she hated most in the English language. I watched in horror as she took a deep, angry breath, stretched her fingers, and proceeded to hurl insults into their chat until they had no choice but to block her to make her stop. The rumor about my crazy mom took over the entire school. For the rest of the year, people were scared to even talk to me, even my own friends. I was so alone. I graduated college, started job hunting, thinking maybe now, as a real adult, she'd finally cool down, give me some space. I was so unbelievably wrong. I made the mistake of leaving my laptop open. She found my resume, changed everything. She bragged about herself in the reference section, added skills and experiences I didn't even have, and then, the ultimate betrayal, she replaced my email and phone number with hers. I only found out when a company emailed her instead of me. When I confronted her, she just waved her hand dismissively, saying she was just polishing it. But some of her edits made me sound like a terrible person, entitled and lazy. The worst part was the harassment. She started hounding HR departments of companies I'd applied to. One recruiter, during a phone screen, actually told me my mother had called twice that week. I didn't get a second interview. She scared off 2 internship opportunities the exact same way, calling supervisors, sending unsolicited materials, hovering so aggressively that they assumed I couldn't function independently. I begged her, pleaded with her to stop. She just called me ungrateful. I just felt bad knowing that nobody wants you, she'd sneer, twisting the knife. But, miraculously, she did back off. Just a little. Midway subscribe line, this journey wasn't easy, and if you've ever felt like your own identity was being swallowed whole, or you just can't believe what happens next, please consider hitting that subscribe button. It truly helps me share more of these raw, honest stories. Main story continued. Finally, I got an interview for my dream position. The salary was great, the benefits even better, and there was so much room for growth. I decided not to tell my mom. The morning of, I told her I was meeting a friend for coffee, then drove straight to the office. The interview had just started, and it was going perfectly. Olivia, the marketing director, was funny, professional, and seemed genuinely impressed. It seems like you'd really be a great fit for the team and company, she began, a warm smile on her face. Then, without a knock, the office doors burst open. And there she was. My mom. She walked right in, sat down in the empty chair beside me, and explained, with a sweet, patronizing smile directed at Olivia, that she was there to support me and make sure I presented myself properly. Olivia looked utterly confused, but tried to continue professionally. She asked me about my previous marketing experience. Before I could even open my mouth, my mom cut in. She complained the question was too vague, then told me not to answer. My jaw dropped. Olivia's eyes were wide, while I stared back, mortified. Olivia, clearly clenching her jaw, tried to redirect the question back to me, but my mom kept interrupting, correcting my answers, adding details that weren't even true. She even called Olivia's questions basic and uninspired, implying Olivia wasn't competent. Then, incredibly, she turned to me and started asking me difficult interview questions, only to get angry when I couldn't answer. That's when I snapped. I had it. I was done. I interrupted my mom mid-question. "Leave," I said, my voice shaking but firm. Her face turned red with rage. "How dare you speak to your mother like this? You're clearly not ready for this job if you can't handle a simple interview," she shrieked, as if she were the one doing the hiring. Olivia stood up, pointing to the door, her voice calm but steel-cold. "You're the one who's being rude. I was practically handing your daughter a job offer before you walked in here and started running your mouth. This ends now. I'm the director, and you are no longer welcome." She called security. My mom, clinging to the doorframe, screeched about discrimination and abuse as they dragged her out. The arrest gave Olivia the full, terrifying picture of what I'd been dealing with. She offered me the job, saying anyone who could stay composed through that deserved a chance. She even helped me find temporary housing. For 3 glorious months, my life was exactly what I'd always dreamed. I worked hard, made real friends, built my career without anyone interfering. Then came the court date for her trespassing charges. I thought it would be a simple formality. Until my mom's lawyer stood up. He pulled out a thick stack of papers, screenshots of texts, emails where I'd asked for her help, photos of us together at graduation. He pointed to specific messages. "Can you look at my resume?" or "I'm so stressed about this interview." He told the judge I had a long history of depending on my mother's support, making it sound like I'd invited her involvement and was now turning on her because I didn't get the exact outcome I wanted. My chest got tight watching him twist every normal mother-daughter interaction into evidence that I was the problem. The judge said we'd reconvene. I walked out of that courtroom feeling sick. The next morning, in the courthouse waiting area, I saw him again. My mom's lawyer, walking straight toward me with that fake, salesman smile. "I'm Waken Watkins. I represent your mother. Do you have a few minutes to talk privately?" My stomach dropped. I followed him to a tiny conference room. He spread pages of highlighted texts and emails across the table, my own words staring back at me. "You asked for her help repeatedly. Your mother was simply responding to your explicit requests." My hands started shaking. I wanted to scream that asking her to look at a cover letter was not an invitation for her to take over my entire job search. That I'd been conditioned my whole life to include her or face her rage. But he kept talking, presenting a plea deal, minimal consequences for her, if I acknowledged her help and dropped any civil claims. I stared at my own words, used as weapons against me. "I need to think about it," I managed, my voice small and shaky. I fled that room. I called Olivia, jumbled and panicked. She told me to stay put and made some calls. 10 minutes later, she called back. "There's a prosecutor named Violet Garza handling your mom's case. She's coming to find you. Don't talk to that defense attorney again without her present." Soon, a woman in a sharp navy suit, moving with purpose, found me. "I'm Violet Garza. Tell me exactly what just happened." As I described the ambush, her jaw tightened. "That's completely inappropriate. He's trying to manipulate you into undermining the prosecution's case." She pulled me aside, explaining that context mattered, that a pattern of behavior mattered. She asked if I was willing to testify about the full pattern of my mother's interference, the playground, the teacher calls, the resume tampering, the HR harassment, everything. This was my chance. My chance to finally tell the complete truth to someone who had the authority to do something. I said yes. Violet requested a postponement to build a comprehensive case. Back at work, I told Milo Beckham, our HR manager. He listened intently, typing notes. I'm documenting all of this. We're setting up protocols for reception, your photo, hers. If she shows up or calls, they'll document it, notify me. You focus on your work, we'll handle security. For the first time, I felt truly safe at my job. Bianca Crowder, a senior coordinator, noticed my stress. I dealt with some family stuff last year. Controlling parents' situation. It sucked. Something about her blunt honesty made me trust her. Over coffee, everything poured out. She didn't look shocked or uncomfortable, she just listened. That's not normal, she said, finally. What your mom did isn't normal mother-daughter stuff. Hearing someone else say it aloud, so simply, made something loosen in my chest. Bianca became an unexpected ally. She didn't try to fix things, she just listened, validated, and offered practical support. In Violet's office, I started writing down every major thing my mom had done, from the playground incident forward. As the list grew, filling 2 pages, I saw a pattern I'd been blind to my entire life. Every single incident involved her taking over something that was supposed to be mine. Every time I tried to be independent, she inserted herself. I felt sick. This was not normal. This had never been normal. Violet, seeing my struggle, told me that enmeshment and parental control were recognized patterns. That my experience wasn't just family drama, it was legally actionable behavior. Hearing a prosecutor say that shifted something in my head. For the first time, someone with authority told me this wasn't my fault. Then, Violet slid another folder across the desk. My mom's defense had filed a motion claiming I had a history of mental health issues, making me an unreliable witness. Based on things my mom had told him about me being anxious, dependent, always needing her help. I stared at the papers, a cold dread settling in. My mom was weaponizing my stress responses to her behavior as proof that I was the problem. She was taking every panic attack, every moment of self-doubt she had caused, and turning it into evidence against me. I felt embarrassed, but I knew we had to fight back. I agreed to let Violet subpoena my records and contact past employers to prove my competence. That evening, I started digging. I found old emails, dozens of messages where I explicitly tried to set boundaries, only for her to ignore them or make me feel guilty. Each email made the violation feel bigger. Then, checking my email login history, I saw it, logins from my mom's house, for years. She had been accessing my email without permission, monitoring my life. That's how she always knew about job applications, about the interview I'd kept secret. The violation felt massive, bigger than anything before. I took screenshots and immediately sent them to Violet. She called within the hour, telling me to change all my passwords, enable 2-factor authentication, remove my mom from everything. Each change felt like taking back a small piece of my life. My mom continued to try and find me, showing up at my building, calling my workplace. But thanks to Milo and the new protocols, she was always met with resistance. It was both rattling and incredibly reassuring. In therapy, Heather asked me to describe my relationship with my mother without using the word love. I opened my mouth, but no words came. I realized it was about obligation, fear, constant guilt, and the exhaustion of managing her emotions. Heather explained enmeshment, a parent unable to see their child as a separate person. My mom genuinely believed she had the right to control every aspect of my life because she couldn't tell where she ended and I began. Heather gave me homework, write down every time I felt responsible for my mother's feelings or actions. I knew I'd fill pages. At work, Olivia assigned me lead on a major marketing campaign. My immediate reaction was pure anxiety, my hand reaching for my phone to call my mom, to ask her opinion, to get her approval. I caught myself. This was exactly what Heather had talked about. The automatic instinct to check with my mother before trusting my own judgment. I accepted the project, shaky but determined. I could do this myself. I had to. The presentation went well, and Olivia praised my strategic thinking and clear communication. The praise felt weird. Uncomfortable. I immediately deflected, minimized my achievement. Bianca, later, gently called me out. There's a difference between being modest and refusing to acknowledge your own competence. She challenged me to accept just one compliment without minimizing it. It sounded impossible. In therapy, I admitted I was terrified of testifying against my mother, feeling like a bad daughter, a betrayer. Heather let me talk, then asked a simple question: what kind of mother puts her child in a position where they have to testify in criminal court about her behavior? It was a lightning bolt. I had been so focused on my guilt, I hadn't considered her responsibility. She was the one who forced her way in, who refused to leave, who got arrested. None of that was my fault. Heather said I needed to stop taking responsibility for my mother's choices. The defense attorney threatened to countersue me and Olivia for defamation. My heart raced, panicking about dragging Olivia into my mess. Olivia's email was direct: I have excellent lawyers. This is exactly the kind of base. Less threat I expected. I made that choice knowing full well what might happen. Her refusal to let me take responsibility for my mother's actions was both profoundly reassuring and disorienting. Violet forwarded a new plea offer. Mom would plead guilty to trespassing, accept probation and counseling, but I had to agree not to pursue a restraining order or civil claims. Violet advised me to think about what I was giving up. The counseling mandate sounded good, but there were no enforcement mechanisms. And giving up my right to a restraining order? What would stop her from showing up again once probation ended? Violet connected me with Kaylee Newton, a court victim advocate. Kaylee went through the plea offer line by line, asking what each part would actually do to protect me. She asked me what I actually needed to feel safe. Nobody had ever asked me that before. I started listing things: a no-contact order covering my workplace, mandatory therapy with court reports, the ability to get a restraining order if rules were broken. Kaylee wrote it all down. She explained I had the right to ask for these things. Violet presented my counteroffer to my mom's lawyer. He went quiet, then said my mother wouldn't agree to a no-contact order, it would damage our bond and prevent natural healing. The familiar guilt crept in. But then I remembered Kaylee, my right to feel safe. I told Violet to tell him that his response was exactly why I needed the protection. If my mother still thought she had the right to contact me whenever she wanted, if she still saw boundaries as damage instead of basic respect, then she hadn't learned anything. The judge, overhearing, stepped in, giving them 10 minutes to reach an agreement or face full testimony. My mom's lawyer went pale. After a frantic, whispered conversation with my mom, they agreed to all my terms. In the courtroom, I saw my mom. She looked smaller, older. She tried to catch my eye, her face going soft and pleading. That old, familiar pull to comfort her, to make everything okay, hit me hard. My body wanted to walk over and hug her. But I made myself look at Violet, focusing on her steady presence beside me. The judge returned. The terms were outlined: guilty plea, probation, mandatory counseling with reports, a no-contact order including workplace protection, and written communication only through attorneys, after therapist approval. My mother, in a quiet voice, said yes. The judge accepted the plea, the order effective immediately. It was done. We walked out. My mom was a few steps behind us. My name, she called. Violet immediately stepped between us. The no-contact order is effective immediately. Any attempt to approach her is a violation. My mother's face crumpled. Tears filled her eyes. I just wanted to tell her I loved her, she sobbed. The guilt hit me so hard I almost couldn't breathe. This was exactly what Heather had warned me about: the crying, the broken voice, the claim of love. It was manipulation. Kaylee appeared beside me, gently guiding me towards a side exit. I followed, my legs weak. In the parking lot, everything I'd held in during the hearing came pouring out. I started crying, gasping for breath. Kaylee didn't try to stop me. She just stood there, silently, until I found my breath. Then, she said, having boundaries doesn't make you a bad person. Even when someone cries about those boundaries. Even when that someone is your mother. The relief and the guilt fought each other in my chest. I felt free and terrible all at once. The next day, exhausted but lighter, I went to work. Milo confirmed new protocols were in place, my mother wouldn't get past the lobby, calls would be documented. I felt safer than I had in months. Olivia, later, told me she was recommending me for a promotion. I stared at her, stunned. I thought the drama with my mom would hurt my reputation. But Olivia said my ability to handle a personal crisis while maintaining work quality showed strength and professionalism. I just said, thank you. In therapy, Heather processed the hearing. My mother's distress was real, she explained, but it was distress about losing control, not regret for the harm she caused. I wasn't responsible for managing my mother's adjustment to boundaries. A few weeks later, Violet called with an update on my mom's first progress report. My mother showed limited insight, wasn't examining her boundary violations or control patterns, just processing her own feelings of loss. Disappointment, but not surprise. Heather said some people never develop that self-awareness. She gave me permission to stop waiting for my mother to change, to instead focus on maintaining my boundaries. At work, my campaign went live. It was a huge success. Olivia praised my strategic planning. The whole team clapped. I felt my face get hot, but this time, I didn't deflect. I just said, thank you. Bianca invited me hiking with friends. I hesitated, worried about family questions, about judgment. But no one judged. That must be hard sometimes, someone said, then the conversation moved on. I realized I could just be myself. This felt like trying on a different version of my life. Roman, my building manager, told me my temporary housing was ending. 6 months ago, I would have panicked, called my mom. But now? I felt excitement. I started apartment hunting. My own list, my own criteria. The third place was perfect. I filled out the application myself, my name, my references, my income verification. No one else's name anywhere. I got approved. Signing that lease, alone, was a surge of accomplishment that felt too big for just a rental agreement. Heather said it was a huge deal. She was right. My mother's second progress report showed slight improvement, but still framed her behavior as trying too hard to help. I read it twice. It was better, but not true insight. But I wasn't waiting for that anymore. I was just maintaining my boundaries regardless. Moving day arrived. Bianca and coworkers helped. I was careful about who got my new address. This apartment was mine, and she didn't know where it was. That felt like the strongest boundary I'd ever set. Months passed. My career thrived. Olivia promoted me to senior marketing coordinator. I accepted the praise without deflecting. In therapy, Heather asked about healthy family relationships in the future. I wasn't ready for reconciliation, and Heather affirmed that was completely valid. She just wanted me to imagine a future where my mother's behavior didn't define my whole life. 6 months after the hearing, I sat in the same courtroom for my mother's probation review. The judge noted her compliance with the no-contact order. Her therapist reported some understanding of boundary issues, but still struggled to see the full pattern of control. Violet asked if I wanted to modify the no-contact order to allow supervised communication. I thought about it for perhaps 10 seconds. I wasn't ready. I didn't feel guilty about that anymore. I told the judge I wanted to keep the order as it was. He extended it for another full year. I left the courthouse feeling steady, shaky. Work kept getting better. I handled responsibility without panicking. I stopped apologizing. Olivia became an incredible mentor, modeling healthy boundaries in professional relationships. One Saturday morning, I woke up in my own apartment, no alarm. I made coffee, sat on my couch, looking out the window. I didn't anxiously check my phone. I didn't worry about unexpected visitors. That constant, low-level dread that used to follow me everywhere? It was gone. I just sat there, drinking coffee, thinking about what I wanted to do that day. Go to the farmer's market, meet Bianca for lunch, work on a new campaign proposal. Normal things. Easy things. Things I chose because I wanted to do them. That's when I realized this quiet, peaceful feeling was what safety actually felt like. Not excitement or relief or victory, just calm. Just knowing that my space was mine, my choices were mine, and nobody was going to burst through the door trying to control everything. My relationship with my mother might never be what I wished it could be when I was younger. She might never fully understand what she did or why it was harmful. But I had built a life that was genuinely mine. I had work I was proud of, friends who respected my boundaries, a home where I felt safe, people around me who supported my independence instead of trying to take it away. And sitting there on my couch that Saturday morning, I realized that was more than enough. What about you? Have you ever had to fight to set boundaries with someone you loved, and how did it change your life? Tell me your experience in the comments below. I really want to know.